Had a little technical glitch, so we're running a couple of minutes late. We just came in from our closed session, and we still have one item remaining, but I'll allow our attorney to make a comment.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Council is in closed session this evening in conference with labor negotiator and with conference of legal counsel on existing litigation. There's no reportable action on either of those items, and the council will reconvene the closed session at the end of the meeting for a public employee appointment.
Thank you. We will now open the regular council meeting, city council meeting, at 7:04. Liz, if I could have the roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmembers Payne. Here. Claire.
Here.
Haynes.
Here.
Meredith.
Here.
Shelton.
Here. And is it hot down there where you're at, Darrell?
No, it's just a nice day.
All right, good. I'd like to ask everyone to stand for a moment of silence and remain standing for the flag salute. We have Cub Scout Pack 84 DIN 7. Thank you, Scout. We could have the video statement, please.
This meeting of the Galt City Council is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs channel on the Comcast and SureWest cable systems. Tonight's meeting can be seen on Channel 14 and will also be webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv this Friday and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Tonight's meeting can also be seen via live video streaming on the city's website at www.ci.galt.ca.us. A VHS copy is also available for checkout from any library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address council should fill out a speaker identification form and give it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing council and state your name for the record.
Thank you. Are there any hello, let me start over. Agenda approval, deletions, and/or additions, are there any?
I have a couple.
Yes.
I'd like to pull item I3 and I4 off of the agenda tonight. That's the award of the bid for the construction of Lincoln Way parking lot and the award of construction for Walker Community Park Phase 1A. Council was provided with the documentation due to the late nature of the bids and the bid results being released for these two projects today. So I would hope that council would agree to put this off until our next meeting so we give the public an opportunity to review these bid documents.
No, this is one of the issues I believe we had in the last time where we weren't getting the document information in a timely manner for review. So I would support that to give us give us more opportunity, more chance to review that information before we move forward.
Well, let me just make a comment. The reason why we put it on here kind of not the last minute, but both of these projects are time sensitive as far as the winter rains coming. and we didn't want to wait because the next council meeting is 3 weeks away this time, and those 3 weeks are going to be critical to getting construction started, particularly on the Lincoln Way parking lot project. We start running into the rains, we're going to have more delays on that project. And Walker Park also, they wanted to start the grading and some other things on that project sooner. Now, doesn't mean that we couldn't delay the project. I'm just saying the council should be aware that there may be impacts on those projects for the 3-week delay.
Well, if it's possible, if there's some other issues that need to be discussed and brought up, we could have a special meeting if it's really that time sensitive. I would be open for that.
Any comments from other council members?
I'm fine with going
Fine with
forward
it.
on it.
Darrell?
Well, I kind of agree with some of the concern on the information. On the Lincoln project, not as much, and I think that one's probably more weather sensitive. Is there a way we could perhaps find a consensus on that item?
Council?
Fine with me.
Well, just again for background on this, I know our public works director was out of town. He was on vacation. These staff reports, when are they due? Liz, when do you need them for the agenda?
By the Monday, the week before,
So last
or a week
Monday.
before the council meeting.
So the bid openings for these projects were September the 4th. So it's been quite a while, and we haven't really received anything.
I could correct, the bid openings were September 4th, I believe September 11th.
Okay.
My vacation had nothing to do with the lateness of this. It was the issue relative to the ability for my department to adequately review the submitted bids, do our due diligence, reviewing, checking all the references, and moving forward with the recommendation to the award. I would also add there is no controversy, there has been no protest relative to either one of these two, so this is not necessarily the same thing as we encountered in the last meeting. There's nobody here, I believe, objecting from the public as to what we're doing. One thing council might want to consider is moving forward to hear the item, see what happens, and maybe carry it forward at that point in time. Just a suggestion.
Well, I think I've already stated I'd like to see it pulled off the agenda tonight.
I would support.
How about if we were to have a special meeting a week from tonight, just to conclude these two items, and if it'll help to make that meeting short, let's go ahead and take the presentation that's available tonight and then finish it up next Tuesday night.
It's fine with me if we carry them over to a special meeting next week.
I'm,
Are you available?
That's the 21st, Darrell?
that's 22nd.
The 22nd? Yeah, I'd be okay with the 22nd.
I won't be available.
Barbara won't be available.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I can make myself available.
I mean, I would think by that point it's a 30-minute meeting or less.
Right.
And since I'm okay with it tonight, I'm fine with the council going forward with it without my being here.
Okay.
Let me ask also, since we'll be having a meeting that night, we normally have the meetings at 7, Darrell. How would you feel about starting it at 6? Is that a possibility? Would
Sure.
council consider that?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, staff, could you be able to do that now that council's made that decision?
On the 22nd.
Yeah, staff will be able to make it.
Looks like the
City
chambers
clerk's
are available.
office, you guys can get everything noticed and posted in time. I would imagine the staff reports are already done, so it's just a matter of getting it all put together, and we should be able to do that. As long as the room is available.
The room looks like it's available.
Okay.
Let's check the tentative calendar.
Okay, and then we agreed we go ahead and have the presentation tonight, too.
You can't be there.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Fine with that.
Okay. Any other items? None? We'll call for the public comment then.
Okay, under Government Code, Section 54954.3, members of the audience may address the council on any item of interest to the public or on any agenda item before or during consideration of the item. Please fill out a speaker sheet located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers and forward the completed speaker sheet to the city clerk prior to addressing the council. We request that you state whether you live within the Galt city limits or the county area. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker. Okay. Al Baldwin?
Good evening, everybody. Al Baldwin, or should I say aloha, everybody. It's a wonderful day. I live in Galt. I'm concerned about Galt, and it's going hopefully in a positive direction. I wanted to give you a quick report on Diversity Day, which happened last Saturday. It was truly a wonderful event. There was quite a few people there. There was a lot of food. We had El Rodeo with the good old Mexican food. He did a great job. And we had the high school there with the cheese and nachos, and we had Gary's Deli there with his wonderful, great, exotic, I can't say exotic anymore, can I? Yeah. With his great, wonderful sandwiches. They were wonderful, and they were tasty, and they were just excellent. We had a lot of entertainment. The dancers showed up that I wanted to see, and I was not surprised with their performance. It was up to my expectations. The only regret I had was when they went into the audience to pull people out to dance with them, they didn't choose me. Of course, I was taking pictures, but nevertheless, they could have. But it went over extremely well, and we had a lot of fun. We had the Scottish dances there. We had singing, kids, high school, putting on different extemporaneous speeches and talks with the play. It was just wonderful, and it was inside the auditorium, and it was air conditioned, which is great. Even though it rained in the morning, it took a lot of that stuff out of the air, and it made it clear and fresh, and it was truly a Galt special. And I just want to tell you that it was a wonderful event. If you couldn't make it, you missed a big one. This was our second Diversity Day event, and next year, hopefully, it'll get even bigger. We've been going from west to east, maybe east again, and we'll see what happens and where it is. So all the people volunteered, putting up the huge tent where the food had to be put in it with screens. That was a challenge, but the Lions Club really did a great job putting that together. We helped them, and we got a little sore doing it, but nevertheless, that's part of the game. So it was a lot of fun, and went over quite well. The youth of Galt really pitched in. They did an excellent job, and Council Member Barbara Payne was there in the food booth, and she was supervising. She had a whip. It was only about 6 feet long, but she snapped that thing once in a while. No, I'm just kidding. But it was really good, and we enjoyed her and a lot of the people. So I wanted to give you a report on that. Now that's my first one. Next year, be sure to come to it. It's going to be even bigger and better next year. The next one is months ago I asked about the Carilion and Twin Cities Road stoplight. And I got confirmation that this last month it would probably be started, maybe completed by next month and whatever. And people are still asking me. I thought you told me, because I went right away back to them and gave them the word. So what I'd like to know is that's still going in. People definitely need it and want it. And is there a delay in it or anything going on?
But no delay. As we discussed previously, we awarded the contract. The contractor has ordered the poles. There's a very long 12 to 20 week delivery time. We anticipate construction will start in October, as previously announced.
So by October, we'll have the poles up.
Based upon the anticipated schedule, we've not heard anything different from the contractor. We're waiting, just like you are, to see when the poles show up.
Contractors always are on time anyway, so I can take your word for that, I'm sure. And hopefully it's not going to be raining. This rain can really be a surprise to us like it was this last week, but it was a good surprise. The air was fresh and clean. Other than that, I want to just say thanks for helping out on Diversity Day if you were involved in it. If you aren't, get involved. The youth were fantastic. These young adults are wonderful people, and I tell you, they're encouraging to see what's going to be coming up in Galt in the future. So thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
John Slaughterback?
John Slaughterback, I live in the city of Galt. Tonight you're going to address you're going to hear some information on the wastewater treatment plant UV disinfection and the tertiary treatment upgrade. There's nothing in here about the biosolids upgrade. Some of us would like to hear some information about the biosolids upgrade. What would the last I heard, it was going to cost about $300 million for this upgrade and expansion. So this is a combination of upgrade and an expansion. What percentage of this project is ratepayers' responsibility, and what percentage of this is development's responsibility? And I'd just like to get a little information on it, what we have planned there, and how much it's going to cost, and what percentage are what percentage are the ratepayers going to pay, and what percentage are the developers going to pay. We know that this is a upgrade and an expansion, so it's not just ratepayers, and that's some of the information I'd like to know. If I could get that information, appreciate it.
Well, how about when we discuss the item, well, maybe we can answer them then.
When you discuss this item? Okay, appreciate that.
Tonight?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jimenez?
Dan Jimenez, and I live in the city. Councilman Clare, I wish you were here tonight because my comments are directly for you. Councilman Clare, I thought about your statements from the last council meeting where you wanted to put a stop to the debate about Delta Greens. While that might sound well and good on the surface, it falls way short of the blame that directly links the majority of this council that got us into this situation in the first place. I not only take exception with what you said, but mainly the way you presented it. You said, and I quote, "There is nothing that says you have to be so mean and leave such a scorched earth behind you that no one could work with you in the future." While this might be true in your own mind, you purposely did not mention that you and other council members provided the match that started the fire. For proof of this, look at all the delays to the general plan once this new council was in place, and all the emails before and after that went between council members, the PGF group, and Jerry Slinkard. Moving on. You said, and I quote, Mr. Clare, "You have heard and seen tasteless comments from both opponents and proponents of the Delta Greens project." Councilman Clare, you should not be the one lecturing anyone on tasteless comments. I bring your attention to the email from Jerry Slinkard where he shares information with the PGF group, and he wrote in there, and I quote, "I talked to Darrell Clare this afternoon. He reported that the presentations were very effective and that the good old boys didn't have any comeback." I guess that's Meredith and Donald up there. Darrell also recommends that we try to find copies of Meredith and Haynes's campaign material, slogans, etc. Hold them up in front of the council and say, "This is what you promised." Darrell likes the idea that the Protect Galt's Future group will try to have new people present material to the council. This is you making recommendations on how to embarrass two other council members, Mr. Clare, I'm sorry. In the past, I've come up here and stated that there's a serious division on this council. The last email that I just read supports that statement. Councilman Clare, you are the senior council member up here. After the November 2008 elections, you could have stepped in the early stages help guide this new council in the right direction of this debate. You could have taken a more aggressive leadership role back then. You knew what was taking place, but you chose to sit back and watch this whole situation unfold right in front of your eyes. This is why I find it very hypocritical of you to treat the citizens of the town like spoiled little children and put yourself up as the parent that has to come in and separate us. Your statements and attitude of putting all the blame on the citizens, then excluding yourself and other council members, rings hollow and pompous at the very least. Thank you for allowing me to have this time.
Thank you, Dan.
Everyone else is on certain items. No one else under public comment? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, just make a comment. Mr. Slaughterback had some questions about the wastewater treatment plant. That item that's on consent is not really related to the questions that were posed, and staff is not prepared tonight to answer those questions. So we'd be happy to meet with him after the fact and go over any questions or concerns that he has.
Okay. At his convenience and yours, maybe in the next day or two. Okay. Other public comment?
Nope. Yes. You're under the,
Was it a specific item?
it is for a specific item.
Is it general or is it for this?
I don't have any prepared statement. I didn't plan on saying anything until I got this resolution. And another thing, when you wanted to pull the items for the paving and making a parking lot, it's not true. Mr. Greg Halliday said that there was no protest when I protested quite a bit about that when it was first started. I know Jason spent a lot of time on that, and nothing against Gary and his wife with their deal, but $500,000 for a few parking spots over there on Lincoln Way when there's only 4 businesses operating, I think was a little excessive. Buying the part from Mrs. Peck and for a couple $100,000 and having that paid, and that's fine, but another almost 250 or whatever, I don't know what the figures are, you've got them there in front of you, but it turns out to be a lot of money per parking space, and there's nobody goes in the back of those buildings and enters the businesses for that, other than the one on the end, which is Gary's. But just to let you know, there was a protest on that. Another thing was, I was accused here a while back, a couple months ago, I haven't been up here since then, of being a part of a gang. Last time I was in a gang was when I was in high school in Galt, back in the 60s, 59, 60. They'd say, hey, there's a gang of guys going over to the Sunshine Cafe for lunch. Let's go. That was the last time I was in a gang. So just to let you know, I haven't been in prison, so I've never been in a gang. The other thing was, there's going to be a resolution number 2009, and again, Daryl's not here. There's about 8 subjects on this resolution, and I really think all you need is number 1. Number 1 says, the City Council hereby agrees to allow the current sphere of influence application to complete the LAFCO review and adoption process without any further amendments or delays. That kind of sums it up right there. I don't think you need all this other bureaucratic parts of ad hoc committees and stuff stacked on top of it, especially when number 2 mentions Delta Green's project. And Daryl has said time and time again, there is no project. There is no Delta Green's project. Those are his words. There is none, but yet he mentions it here in this statement. So thank you for my time. I'm glad to get up here and just vent my part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? No speakers. Okay. We will now move to information consent agenda. Would you read the 6 items, please?
Yes, number 1, approval of the minutes of the special and regular meetings of September 1st, 2009. Number 2, approval of the City of Galt warrants. Number 3, approval of the Galt Market Rules and Regulations amendments. Number 4, wastewater treatment plant tertiary improvement project. Number 5, street closure for Galt High School homecoming parade. And number 6, approval of Galt Area Historical Society request.
Any questions or comments, or is there a motion from council?
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. And, excuse me, hold on just a minute. We're right in the middle of something. Motion has been made and seconded. Now, any further discussion? Now I'll hold for the vote. I'm going to allow it this time. So what was your question? Just stay where you're at. Number 4?
I can read the entire.
I think you, part of it too, I think, was John Slaughterback, Mayor, had asked about the biosolids, and you'd indicated that you would respond to that when we came to it. Is that part of what you're asking as well?
I'll let Mr. Holliday address this, but this issue is relating to the state revolving fund loan relating to the project. It's not specifically addressing what Mr. Slaughterback asked, but I'll let Greg go through the staff report and give the council some clarification about what exactly this item is. This is actually the 3rd time it's been back. It's a resolution that the state keeps changing on it, so.
Briefly, what this is, in order, one of the requirements of revolving fund loan was to satisfy the state that we would, in fact, have the money, had a revenue source to repay the loan that we're going to be getting, that it was identified that we dedicated it for this source, that it was a sustainable source, and that we agreed we would pay back the loan. Like Jason said, this is the 3rd time we brought this resolution to council, previously into 3 separate resolutions based upon what state told us they wanted. It got kicked up to the next level at the state. Somebody else reviewed it. They wanted changes in the language, further clarifications. We did a 2nd resolution back in, I think it was April. It's now been kicked up to the next, closer to the final level, and they wanted further clarification and distinguishing between the fund, which is the wastewater fund, and the actual revenue streams, which is the upgrade fee and the wastewater O&M service fee. So all this resolution does is clarify that those 2 fees are the actual revenue we're going to be using. There's also an issue relative to bonds for the 1990 bond sale, and which bond or which requirement to pay back comes first, the requirement to pay back that bond or requirement to pay back the new loan. Each party wanted to be in the primary position. We got them to agree to be on parity. And so this resolution basically agrees that they're going to be on parity, which means they're both equal in terms of our requirement to reimburse them. It's really a simple little bookkeeping issue, and it's really separate from everything else, all the technical issues. The reason it doesn't specifically say biosolids is because the prior 2 did not say biosolids. And if we send something now to the state that's different, it's going to create a whole bunch of other problems. So we're just providing continuity. The biosolids are still in the project.
Okay. So we had a motion, 1st and 2nd. Any further discussion or comments? If none, call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. We had a presentation.
Let's see, Mr. Miller.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council of Galt. Thank you very much for hearing us this evening. My name is Jim Miller. I'm with an organization called Emerge, which is actually called the Capital Region Compact for Youth. This organization was started approximately 4 years ago. It was actually started nationally through an organization called Ready by 21. At that time, what happened is they took a survey of different communities, approximately 18 to 25 communities, brought them together to find out what was the best way they can equip their youth for life, either school, either jobs, vocation training, etc. On the screen is Capital Region Emerge Coalition. Go ahead, next one. The Emerge Coalition is a nonpartisan collaborative adults and youth. One thing you have to understand about this coalition is no one owns it, everyone owns it. It doesn't belong to Sacramento, Elk Grove, Citrus Heights, Rancho Cordova. It belongs to everyone. That's an important thing to remember. Second thing to remember, which is very important this time of year, there's no fiscal impact. By adopting, which I'm going to ask you to do at the end of my presentation, the compact, as other cities have, Sacramento, West Sacramento, soon to be Citrus Heights, and Rancho Cordova. What it is that you're uniting with other cities, other governments, school districts, nonprofits, and CBOs to do and to find out what's best for our youth and our communities. Next slide here. One of the things it's very simple. What the compact includes is this very normal, they're very normal things. We want our youth to graduate from high school, obviously. We want them to be involved in the community. We want them to have a healthy lifestyle. We want them to have healthy relationships. Everything you see here, there's nothing new. It's just that every community has adopted these things, but unfortunately has not adopted them together collectively as one. Okay? So, how do we make a successful future in Sacramento County, in the Capital Region, including all 4 counties? Too few people we know, statistically speaking, are not ready at the age of 21 or sometimes 25 or even 30. As this chart says, 43% of our kids are doing well. That's a big gap. What happens to the other 50+%? Are they incarcerated? Are they out looking for jobs? Are they seeking assistance? Well, by adopting the compact, what we're saying to not only to Galt or to Sacramento, but the entire community, as well as the state of California and the like, we believe in providing safe places, caring adults, healthy start, opportunity to participate in our communities, effective education, and investing in youth. Again, nothing new, but what we're saying is we're going to do this not individually or not as one coalition, as Galt has many coalitions within Galt, as Sacramento does, as Rancho Cordova has, as Citrus Heights does, but do it collectively as one organization, if you will. We're not saying eliminate any of the coalitions that are existing. Those are fine. They're warranted. They're needed in communities. But the problems we run into is a lot of times Galt doesn't know what Sacramento is doing and vice versa, or Elk Grove or Citrus Heights, etc. What the coalition does of Emerge is bringing this information together, brings it on the table. Okay. Youth, if you look at the youth and you just look at more statistics, less than 30% of youth nationally, have these 4 commitments: a safe place, healthy start. Less than 4. That's sad. They don't have caring adults. So does that mean we don't hear Galt? No, we do. Maybe we have 4 out of 5. Maybe we have 5 out of 5. I'm not sure. But maybe there's some areas that don't. Could they seek your assistance in developing maybe programs that are needed in their community by going to the source of who has them and find out how they are done? Okay, next one. What it is engages all sectors to align policies with the compact. We get everybody together, if you will, into one room. We have a leadership team which consists of 27 different organizations. Some are government, some are nonprofits, some are CBOs, some are businesses. They come together once a month to collectively talk about what are the things that we need to put on the agenda for the betterment of our youth within our communities. It's plural. Okay. By partnering with Emerge, what it allows us to do is allows us to bring to you the things that we see in other areas. Not that your coalitions do not possibly partner with other coalitions in the area. What we try to do is provide the bigger picture, which is like I say, which is a regional-wide coalition versus just a local coalition. And last but not least, why does it matter? It is proven right now there's a little town called Georgetown. And what they did about 2 years ago, we're following that model in fact, is they did exactly what the compact has stated, bringing people together collectively from every sector, businesses, etc. And what has happened is they turned around, their dropout rate went down, their crime rate went down, everything went down, and basically it was a community-wide effort, but it was more of a regional, not necessarily just a community, but a regional effort. And then finally, some of the accomplishments I mentioned before. Currently, right now, we have close to 600 members now have signed the compact. We're looking at now close to 90 organizations since this slide was produced about 3 weeks ago. It's gaining momentum because what has happened is that more and more people like ourselves and different communities are realizing that funding is very slim and nil and none. Our school districts are suffering greatly, but so are our city governments, so is our state government. Yes, there's stimulus money. Yes, there's foundations. But now that if you will, that pie got real small. And most of them are saying in order to get anything to be considered, you need a coalition to collaborate with you for funding. Right now, there's several organizations that are out there that have applied for grants that have been denied because they did not partner with somebody. Something that even the government's saying, you need to come together to work this out. Funds are limited. We need to have a plan. And finally, I think that's it. What I'm asking you to do this evening, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to ask you, is to consider adopting the compact. What it requires is very simply mayor signing on saying that we agree to these 5 principles. By the way, the 5 principles are no different than our Americans' Promise, which was developed by Colin Powell in 1996. It's an exact duplicate. It's what Colin Powell and Emma Powell decided back in 1996 to do nationally, is to present these items to different communities. It's a national organization, American Promises, but what he wanted to see is he wanted to see communities as well as not only nationally adopt these, if you will, resolutions so they can work together collectively. And I think finally, and then here I'm for more information. Just a little more information, too, to give you an idea of what the coalition has accomplished in just the last 2 months. There's been a couple grants given out that you may not be aware of, and that we were made aware of, but we were able to help not only procure, to help other organizations receive, but also to get other organizations involved. There's a called Building Healthy Communities on the Fruit Ridge area, the Boys and Girls Club. They applied to the California Endowment Foundation and received $10 million, $1 million a year for the next 10 years to provide services that they feel are lacking within that community. They, in turn, with the coalition, we were able to ask them and to work with them to include not only the Fruit Ridge area, but Oak Park and 65th and Florin, and even further going south to Franklin. So this is things that you need to know and information. How do they get it? How do they obtain it? What type of coalition to take? This is what Emerge is about. Finding out what it is out there that's working, bringing it to the group, if you will, regionally, and allowing more collaboration amongst these groups. The other thing which just happened, which you may not know, is that the Wall Street Journal about 6 months ago had an article that came out and said they nominated, actually they picked the 2 most diverse schools in the nation. And the second most diverse school in the nation is North Thomas High School. Because of that, they received from the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the Equity Foundation was awarded a grant to them which gives them 3 years of diverse training at no charge. The Thomas, as mentioned to you, I've already spoke to your school district, has said that they want to share that information with all the other school districts within the area. 3 years of training provided by the federal government. So these are things you may not hear, may not know. This is what a coalition and a function is bringing the people together, bringing the different coalitions together, bringing the resources together so we can make a better community for our youth at large. Everyone. We also work on public policy, public will. There are different things coming down the pike. We understand from Emerge. We've told different ideas about taxes again and raises of taxes, things like that. We don't participate, but we inform people in government that, hey, this is coming down. This is a coalition we see that's going to be doing something. We want to make you aware. So basically, that and also I think you all received an invitation for next Tuesday. Unfortunately, you might be having a meeting, I hear, but it's from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Coloma Community Center. Vice Mayor Payne here will be there, hopefully, unless she's at this meeting. It's from 4 to 6, giving an award to one of your own here from Galt is going to receive an award, an extinguished award from the coalition for doing what we call service learning projects. And so Galt is being recognized along with Citrus Heights and a few other organizations throughout the community. Again, this is a regional-wide coalition. It is not just it's not just the Sacramento, Elk Grove, or Citrus Heights. It's regional, and their coalitions have joined. That's why we have so many, like I say, organizations that have joined. We have 5 school districts that signed up, for example, and right now I believe Galt is considering signing up as well. So I'm inviting you for next Tuesday. Yes.
Questions from council? Barbara?
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Did you have your hand up or something? Oh,
You're good.
well, I don't really have any questions
Or
because
comments?
I've been involved in it, and I've seen how beneficial it can be, especially for a town like Galt that has limited resources. It gives us many more opportunities that we don't have to pay for, basically. Right. And I'm trying to, Patricia, don't we have a program at the high school based on this that you're involved in? No?
That's separate.
It's a different one? Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The only other thing I would add is, you know, the concerns and the problems and the needs of the youth don't stop at the city limits. So that's one of the real values of being involved in this regional commitment to the basic goals that we have for our young people.
Right. You have a question over here?
I have a comment. Where does eMERGE currently receive its funding from?
California Endowment. We have a 2-year endowment right now from them. We're anticipating right now there's 2 proposals out for different grants that will fund the eMERGE. eMERGE is, fortunately for us, eMERGE is, I'd say, 95% volunteer based. The only thing that's being funded is the project manager, which is myself, and the trainer, and then 1 admin. That's it. And actually that's all there has to be, because it's really volunteer driven throughout the communities. And so what we've been able to do, we do have, I forgot to mention, we have 2 very active communities, which your mayor, vice mayor sits on. One is a government committee, which deals with different governments, Sacramento, Citrus Heights, Elk Grove, and I believe West Sacramento was there that one meeting, where they've come together and discussed different programs they have governmentally. And then we also have an advocacy committee, which we are bringing in people from an advocacy standpoint, looking at different policies and things that need to be changed. But no, it is not. It's a 3-person, if you will, position that seems to, from what we project from our business plan, could be for the next 5 years. Because again, it's volunteer driven.
How long has Galt had a representative on the government committee?
Just started about 2 months ago. 2 months ago. Or a month and a half ago, I think it was. Yeah.
About that.
And we're looking for more. So if anyone here is interested in joining our advocacy committee or our government committee, you know, it's just not one representative. More voices are always better.
Mayor?
Darrell, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the gentleman for the work he's doing and his group. A couple of years ago, I was the representative for Sacramento County in Washington, D.C. for the America's Promise annual meeting, where Alma Powell presented a number of awards, and through the First 5 Commission of Sacramento County, it was named one of the leading places to raise children and all. And so it's doing some great work. My only concern or request would be that as we're seeing even with our youth master plan in Galt, we've got a number of somewhat parallel activities going on and limited people and resources, which the gentleman pointed out. And so if this can strengthen the efforts we're doing, then certainly all the better. But we do need some of these various groups to focus and center, and I know Patricia's there. She knows better than anyone that we probably have more ideas than we have time and people and resources to get them implemented and out into the community. So I applaud any efforts to try and focus those efforts.
Right.
Yes, Patricia.
Patricia, can you come up to the microphone so we can get you further on the record?
Thank you very much. My name is Patricia St. James. The Galt Youth Master Plan, which we're unveiling this Thursday at Chavola Center, and everybody is invited. We've bought lots of sandwiches. We need to feed the people that are coming. But that is our local Galt Youth Master Plan. We're using the structure that eMERGE has put together, called the dashboard. I know that doesn't have a lot of meaning right here, right now, but we're using that system to make our plans here in Galt. And when I say we, I'm talking about people from the City Council have been coming to our meetings, the schools, faith community, our chief of police has been coming. Businesses have been coming to look at how do we better support our youth. So that's on a local level. It's hand in hand with this that is more on the regional, state, and national level. So it's not opposed. It's actually very integrated. So it's another way of supporting our youth. And this is very much an initiative that doesn't cost money. There's a lot of us who have been volunteering a lot of time. Janet and I are on the educational committee, and it's really exciting what's coming out of it. So I just wanted to make sure that, again, it's weaving together in a very beneficial way for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia.
Any directions? Any other comments? I think he was asking for a letter or something.
Jim, you are officially asking this council and the city of Galt to endorse or become a part of the compact, which
Correct.
we will have to we'll have to bring
Yes.
official action back. But that's
Fine.
part of what your presentation
Correct.
is about.
Right. It's
To
just
join in
official.
other cities in this commitment to the goals that we have for the youth.
Right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. I'll leave the compact here for you to review and to get me to another date. But again, you're all invited next Tuesday. It's we have government coming, of course. We have your very own receiving a very nice prestigious award, along with 11 other awards within the community. We're anticipating about 300 plus people, but it's government coming together, it's school districts coming together, it's cities coming together, and I think, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, they're all coming together under one roof, which sometimes is hard to do, but they're finally coming together, and it's a celebration of what's being done now for our youth and what can be done in the future. So I thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any communications? I believe we have a couple.
Have one, Barbara?
I don't.
Okay.
I think Daryl does, but you go ahead.
Okay. We'll let Daryl go first.
Daryl,
Do you have some communication?
do you have communications?
Yeah, if I could, I just wanted to let the community know, I spoke with Congressman Lundgren's staff today, and they've been trying to get the word out throughout town that this Saturday, the 19th, Congressman Lundgren is going to be holding a town hall meeting focused on health care, and that will occur from 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon at the Galt High School Gymnasium, 145 North Lincoln Way. And as I say, he will primarily focus on health care, but he certainly is always open to hear other issues from the folks who can make it. So again, it's this Saturday, 10:30 to noon.
Thank you, Daryl. And I, the mayor, was asked to introduce him, and I know that at least one other congressman, maybe someday, right, Andrew? Maybe you guys, are either one of you guys going to be able to make it?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there Saturday.
You're going to be able to make it?
I don't think I'm going to be there for that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think we asked you. Barbara, are you going to be able to make it?
I'm planning to, yes.
Okay. Are you going to be able to be there, Daryl?
Actually, I will not.
Okay. So there'll be three of us. Very good. We had a little glitch here on something. So
Okay, we're doing a little bit of spill control up here.
Go ahead, Andrew. You had something.
Under communications tonight, I wanted to mention a teenager from our community. His name is Evan Hamilton. I found out about Evan in the newspaper a little over a month ago. Evan is currently in a hospital. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor several months back. The tumor was removed. It was found to be non-cancerous. But when they removed his intubation, they found out that Evan suffered nerve paralysis that required a tracheotomy. So he's been in the hospital ever since. Evan has a Caring Bridge. It's a website that provides communication resources for children or sick individuals that are in the hospital to communicate with loved ones, communicate with the community. Evan has one of these websites. It is www.caringbridge.org. You log in there and it'll ask you for the name of the individual, and you just type in Evan Hamilton. It's EvanHamilton. You can read all about his story, and one of the most important things that you can do is post comments to Evan on the guest book portion of this website and let him know just how proud of him we are as a community for the courage that he's shown through this entire medical ordeal. So I know his family is really struggling through this process. It's been hard on everybody. I think it'd be a great gesture for members of the community to log on to this website and let him know that we care about him. So that's all I've got.
Very good. Thank you.
Hey, Andrew, could you repeat the website again?
It's Caring Bridge, CaringBridge.org.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Was it on the computer? No. Okay. So, scheduled matters, I believe there are none. Ordinances, none. Regular calendar, City Manager's Office, we have the annual grant report. Jason?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm pleased to present the annual grant report. We started this a couple of years ago. The council had a lot of requests about how we were doing and going after state and federal funding, and so we compiled a list several years ago, and we've done that every year since. So this is the annual report from the last fiscal year. I wanted to give the council an update on which grants we've applied for, which ones we've received, which ones we may have denied. What you see in your packet is a list from every department, and we applied for looks like 26 grants over the last year, receiving about $2.2 million in total funding for the residents, citizens of Galt for various important projects throughout the community. In addition to the grants that are listed in the report, staff is always monitoring, trying to find out what opportunities exist. There are many that we would investigate and analyze, and we would determine, one, maybe we weren't eligible for the grant, or we didn't have a project that fit the requirements, or there was a matching requirement or something that we didn't actually apply for the grant. So in addition to the 26 that we actually applied for, there were dozens more where we investigated and just determined not to apply. So staff continues to be very active at the direction of council in securing those funds. As the council all knows, we're a city of limited resources, so any time that we can get money from the outside, it benefits, and bring that money into our community, it certainly benefits our community greatly. So I'm happy to report this to the council and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Council, any questions?
Comment. Thanks for looking at these grants and putting in time and applying for them. If we don't apply for them, if we don't have staff that's willing to stay on top of them, we won't get the money. So I just want to express my appreciation for their efforts.
Yes. Thank you. Any other comments? None?
And Darrell?
Darrell, did you have a comment?
No, thank you. Good work, though.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'd like to agree. $2.2 million is quite a bit of money. I was kind of hoping we might see somebody from the COPS program, but unfortunately that didn't come through. But I think $2.2 million is quite a task, and I appreciate that. Good work.
Okay. Next item. Community Development Department.
Responses to questions raised by the mayor regarding the proposed sphere of influence.
Thank you. Kurt and I met and we went over these, but we kind of felt that they should be lightly discussed and open.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, at the last meeting, the August 18th meeting, these questions came up, and staff indicated that, or was asked to come back at tonight's meeting with responses to those questions. And as the mayor indicated, we met and went over and clarified some of the questions and the responses in your packet. In addition, Rich Rodmacher from Sacramento County, he's the project manager with Sacramento County on the HCP project, the Habitat Conservation Plan for South Sacramento County. He's in the audience tonight. I thought I would run through the questions and then at the end have Rich come up, and if there are any additional questions for Rich or myself, we'll do our best to respond to those questions. Talking with the mayor, I thought I'd read through the questions, give a brief summary of what is in the report or the responses for the benefit of the audience. The first question, can a project secure a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife for property outside the urban development area of Galt in the future? Well, the urban development area is a geographic boundary as part of the Habitat Conservation Plan. It's also coterminous with our proposed sphere of influence amendment, which is now pending before LAFCO. So to give you an idea of what those two boundaries look like. The answer is yes. Set forth in the draft HCP, projects that are not within the UDA or within a sphere of influence covered under the Habitat Conservation Plan would secure whatever appropriate permits are from local agencies, including Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, State Fish and Game, and that would be under the current processes that are in place today. The difference between the process today and what is envisioned in the HCP is that the HCP will provide a streamlined process for the 42, I believe it is 42 covered species. Excuse me? 40 covered species in the Habitat Conservation Plan. The second question, maybe I'll hold on that one and have Rich come up a little bit later because part of it refers to the county. Next question, what are the restrictions that occur when an area outside of the sphere of influence attempts to get approval through various environmental agencies? Well, to my knowledge, there are no restrictions in getting approval from various agencies. The difference would be in getting the permit would either you'd go through the existing process as it is today versus what the process would be, the streamlined process under the Habitat Conservation Plan. So that is the only difference, but there are no known restrictions. If there are restrictions, we wouldn't know that until the final draft of the Habitat Conservation Plan would be put together, and that'll probably be a couple years down the road. And I'll let Rich talk to timeframes along those lines when he comes up. Next question was, is it prohibitive for a developer because of the increased time? And I interpreted that to mean and confirmed it with the mayor that time is both time as well as cost. And this would be for, development that's not within the sphere of influence, those that are not covered by the HCP. Presumably, there would be additional time because you wouldn't have the benefit of the streamlined process by being in the HCP. You'd be going through normal permitting processes. In terms of costs, that would be specific to whatever lands are being mitigated and the biological impacts to that specific property. So you couldn't necessarily make a generalized statement that's going to be more or less costly until you know what land and what impacts that project may have on that specific property. Will areas outside of the sphere of influence be at a disadvantage in mitigating new development? I don't believe that that properties that are outside the sphere of influence or not covered by the HCP would be at a disadvantage in providing mitigation. The HCP is a voluntary program for property owner participation, so if someone wishes to participate, they could. Additionally, on the development side, a developer has the ability to, one, provide on-site mitigation, off-site mitigation, utilization of mitigation banks. So there are programs out there as they exist today. Again, the HCP provides a streamlined process where you simply pay a fee. So to that extent, those are the differences. Next question is, does the city have to wait for the sphere of influence amendment to be complete prior to requesting a second sphere of influence amendment? We have an amendment to our current sphere of influence pending before LAFCO currently that would implement the adopted general plan that was adopted in April of this year. The question is, yes. According to LAFCO staff, any lands that are not included within the city's existing general plan study area or plan area would require additional environmental review before they would accept the application for a sphere of influence application. So that was their response.
Kurt,
yes.
At some point, I hope we can come back to that and get an estimate on when we think we will have the amendment process ready.
Okay. Yeah, we come back.
We can wait until.
Okay. According to LAFCO staff, on an amendment to lands that are not within the city's existing general plan, they're saying it would be at least probably 2 years before you'd get through the environmental review process. And there was a follow-up question on 6, 7, and 8, and I'll read those right now. The follow-up question was, what are the issues that could reasonably be expected if an application were made, a second application? And that response was, well, one, you'd have a full environmental review process to go through. There would be costs, there would be studies, there would reasonably be expected that you would have comments from the environmental community, possibly other agencies, both state and federal. So to the extent that an interest, again, would depend upon the location of the land that's being proposed. Some may be more controversial, some may be less. Next question. Does the city have to wait for the HCP, the Habitat Conservation Plan, to be complete before asking for an amendment to the Habitat Conservation Plan? Well, for a formal amendment to the Habitat Conservation Plan, it would have to be complete and adopted. So yeah, you would have to wait, but as an alternative, if you're asking for changes to the current document regarding language or process, those requests could be made at this time while the document is in the draft form. So there are possibilities that the state and federal agencies may look to those requests with favor, but there is no guarantee at this point. And it could depend upon, and it would certainly depend upon, what those requests amounted to. Does the city have to wait to amend the general plan before asking for a sphere of influence amendment? Yes, the sphere of influence amendment currently under review by Sacramento LAFCO is consistent with the city's general plan, and that kind of goes back to the question number 6, where LAFCO said the lands would have to be consistent with the general plan. They're basing their application process on an existing general plan before they will process a sphere of influence. The issues associated with that one are very similar to number 6 in terms of who may wish to comment, what the regulatory agencies may have to say as well. Are there any applications for development in the SOI? Currently, there are no development applications pending with the City of Galt. Now, there may be building applications out there at the county, but I'm not aware of those. Are there any pre-annexation agreements being worked on by city staff and the city attorney? Currently, there are none. We had worked with and talked briefly, I think on 2 or 3 meeting occasions with representatives from Delta Greens. I think the last meeting that I was involved in was in June, so it's been several months since there's been any discussion on that. That kind of concludes most of the questions. Let me go back and Rich, I don't know if you'd like to come up. There was another question that said, if the HCP does not recognize the city's desire to expand the sphere of influence, what would be the effect if the city elected to withdraw from the HCP process? Well, if we withdrew from it, both public projects, such projects for the City of Galt, as well as private projects, would not have the benefit of the HCP in terms of the streamlined process. That would be for all projects within the existing city limits and everything that could conceivably be built in the city's proposed sphere of influence, and that's east of Marengo, north of Twin Cities. There may be costs to other agencies and cities in terms of time and actual studies to recalculate some of the vegetative cover types of the areas that would be dropped out of the HCP by the city withdrawing. I think a better way to look at it is to have the city continue through this process, see what the final documents look like before you make any decision as to whether not to participate. Because we will have to adopt an ordinance at the end of this process to be a permitted agency as part of the HCP. Each individual city or public agency will have their own permit with State Fish and Game, or excuse me, with U.S. Army Corps, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Fish and Game, whoever participants in the HCP. So if you never adopt that ordinance, you would never be a participant. And I don't know, maybe Rich can comment a little bit more on, what impact that would do to the HCP at this point if we did drop out. But there really doesn't seem to be any advantages, at least that we can identify right now. Questions?
There's a question about the amendment process.
Pardon me?
There was a question that you had on the amendment process and when that document was going to be available or released.
Chapter 10.
Chapter 10.
Yeah, chapter 10, the infamous chapter 10.
Yeah.
There are 4 chapters now in review by the regulatory agencies, including the what's called the implementation chapter, which outlines the process for amendments. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Fish and Game are doing what's called a fatal flaws analysis on those 4 chapters now, including chapter 10. We anticipate hearing back from them in about, I would say, another 2 months as to if they see any issues or problems with the documents at that point. Should they come back and say those documents look fairly clean, then the local agency working group, which includes Galt, will make a determination on when we decide to proceed with releasing those documents to the public, which should be shortly thereafter. Every 2 months. So my guess is we should see those in about 2.5 months.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Well, go ahead.
Do you want me to go ahead?
And then we'll ask her.
One of the advantages or one of the goals is to be able to predict the mitigation costs. How are you going to come up with that cost for somebody? And
Yeah, it's a really involved answer, I guess, to that question. Again, we have a chapter dedicated to the fiscal analysis of the HCP. In fact, we are required to show the regulatory agencies and the public exactly how the plan will be implemented and funded, from land acquisitions to the operations and management of the preserve systems, just to the basic overhead of what the implementing entity would look like. Again, it would take quite a while for me to try and explain every detail of that document. Again, that will be coming out hopefully within the next couple of months for your review, and that should be able to answer a lot of your questions. The easy answer, I guess, is at this point in time we're primarily relying on development fees to fund the entirety of the HCP. That could change. We may receive direction from your council or other councils or the board to look at other options, transfer fees or developing service areas or something along those lines to help fund this program. But right now it's entirely based on development impact fees.
so if this economic situation continues and there are no developer fees or very little, how can you proceed? Because it's my understanding you'll be trying to acquire land in your plan that can be used for mitigation. So
Yeah,
if you don't have any money, how are you going to acquire the land?
it won't proceed until development begins. But again, the clock to actually acquire land won't start ticking until a development occurs, because it is mitigation based. And so if no development projects come in the first 2 years, that's okay. We don't have any obligations then to preserve any land because there's no impact that's occurred.
So you're really not going to be able to predict the cost to the developer because you don't know what land he's looking at. And I understand the whole project is voluntary. So if you have a farmer or a rancher that doesn't want to participate, then you don't have the land. And that brings up another question. What if you have 2 farms adjacent and one wants to participate and the other doesn't? And I noticed one of your goals, instead of having this patchwork type of conservation, that it would be more effective if you could have a larger area, you know, to preserve these wildlife creatures.
That's
a good question. How are you going to handle that if someone does and someone doesn't, and you're really trying to get a nice area?
Yeah, that's a quandary I think all HCPs face over time. I'll say for the record, we've emphatically stated that this will always be a voluntary plan. So if a situation does arise where we start seeing a patchwork of habitat types, then that's what it will look like. I imagine that the regulatory agencies would then at some point perhaps intervene and ask the implementing entity,
are you able to fill in these gaps or what have you? And if you're not, then there's a risk that the permit could be suspended for not following the conservation strategy guidelines. But again, Sacramento County at least has made a commitment to take that chance, to move the HCP forward, see how well it is implemented over time. And if we hit these stumbling blocks and we can't implement accordingly, then I think we're willing to take chances on saying, well, the program didn't work, or we'll suspend the program. So we won't force anyone to ever sell us land or easements. That's a commitment we'll stand firm to.
One last question. You have an economic subcommittee. Do you still have that committee?
We do.
And what is the scope of that economic subcommittee?
Yeah, the economic subcommittee it's primarily made up of several developers, a few folks from the environmental community, some from the agricultural community, and a bunch of us from the local governments. The idea behind that is to provide guidance to the authors of the economic analysis, to the consultants that are hired to put that plan together, and just question certain assumptions, and kind of keep us in government honest, I guess. So, for instance, if we come back with some fees that seem extremely high, that group won't hesitate to question why is that. Where can you look at other methods, and we'll take that into consideration to try to ensure that we are building consensus in that committee and getting a fee that does seem reasonable or is marked with the current status of the economy now. So, yeah. And to kind of go back and answer, I think another one of your earlier questions, and that is, how do you guarantee what the fees are going to be? And that's an excellent question. We have gone out, or the consultants, I should say, have gone out. They've looked at appraisals, they've done their market studies, and so forth. And so we're going to do the best job we can in trying to estimate what the values of land are today. I will say that we will likely have some sort of built-in escalators in the plan document. We'll definitely have a yearly review of the fee to ensure that it is keeping pace with land values, or if land values are dropping, that fee is going to drop. Again, these will all be explained in great detail in future chapters that should be coming out soon.
Carol?
No, I appreciate the information we've been provided, and the gentleman for appearing. Going to obviously continue following this as it develops. Had a chance to have a nice chat with Supervisor Natoli on some of the issues related particularly to the county areas around our city. So thank you to the gentleman who's there tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You've answered most of my questions, but one of the statements you made me wonder. You were talking about the patchwork of habitat, for example. The HCP, isn't that part of its primary goal, is to avoid any patchwork?
That's actually an interesting question, because it depends on the habitat. For agricultural habitat, you're actually looking for a matrix system, so you do not have to have contiguous parcels. For vernal pool habitats, though, grassland habitats, yes, you are looking for large core preserves, looking to establish those. And so, one of the things we've done early on is we've talked to landowners where they're willing to talk to us. We've talked to mitigation banking operators. For instance, Conservation Resources, Inc. has a 10,000 acre, the Gill Ranch, the old Gill Ranch, 10,000 acre property. They're very willing to work with us in perhaps using that as a site for conservation in this plan. So we're already off to kind of a good start in the sense of knowing what's kind of out there and how we can coalesce these preserves to try and create one solid core preserve area.
So you've done an inventory of all the land out there in the South County. Yeah. You understand its potential, and so basically I have to believe that you have a strong understanding of how to avoid that patchwork that we've been discussing.
We believe we do. Yeah. Again, it is voluntary though, and so there's inevitably going to be areas that individuals, they just don't want to participate.
Right.
You're going to have certain holes here and there, but again, the overall goal is to try and create a large preserve. Now, understanding there's going to be holes in certain areas or what have you, but that's okay too. Again, the conservation strategy 200 pages long. Goes into great detail about how to prepare these preserves and how we think they're going to function.
On the issue of fees and costs, for example, as I understand the HCP, the idea is to streamline it, save time, but also in many ways save money for developers, correct?
That's correct.
So is it safe to say that it would be a very rare circumstances in which you might see an increase in fees where had you did not have the HCP in place?
I mean, the fees will, if I understand your question, the fees will continue to be what they are based on the land values.
Yeah, based on land values.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking of in terms of, you know, being able to streamline the cost, for the mitigation, for everything considered, I'm trying to envision in my mind, but I keep thinking in my head, at least that's what I've read and come to understand, is that the process overall should in some way keep some of the costs down.
That's correct. We believe it'll be very unlikely that fees will escalate through the HCP beyond what you would have to pay through a normal Section 7 consultation.
Right.
You know, and a lot of it is just the time, carrying costs that developers, you know, they have to hold on to their land for so many years while they're negotiating these processes. Heaven forbid you have unfortunate circumstances of having numerous wetlands on your property. You know, that can take years and years and years. The HCP is designed to you know, cut that down to 6 months to maybe a year for larger projects. And even shorter time frames for projects that have smaller impacts. And we're planning to do that by being one of the first plans in the nation to not only have the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Section 10 permits under our belt, but to also have the Clean Water Act 404 permits also within the local government's control. And that would be huge. And that's really where you see a tremendous cost savings and streamlining.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Good answer.
Okay, thank you. Well, I had a letter that was given to me from, I'm sorry, Andrew.
That's okay.
I didn't know, I thought you didn't have any questions.
Oh, no, I've got some comments. Mr. Rodmacher, first of all, thank you for coming here tonight. I wanted to tell you while you were here that it's really unfortunate that you and the HCP have been drawn in as a political pawn into this argument over Delta Greens. There were a lot of pointed questions that we heard tonight that I think were meant to discredit the HCP, so I wanted to touch on those a little bit. The issue of patchwork and whether or not the HCP was going to effectively create these green belt areas that it's seeking to accomplish. Right now, what does Sacramento County have in place without the HCP to make sure that that doesn't happen?
Not a whole lot.
Nothing.
Yep.
So this is actually a step in the direction of creating green belts.
That's correct.
And in regards to fees, there's a lot of concerns about what the fees are going to be. Right now, when a developer has to mitigate property, environmental issues on his property, how are his fees regulated at the time being when he has to go and purchase mitigation property?
Yeah, there's a number of ways obviously you can mitigate today. Again, the cost savings that the HCP will offer is through the streamlined permitting processes, but a project developer today will have to either set aside their own property, purchase easements on the other's property, go through mitigation banking programs or the like.
So the whole process is cumbersome at the time.
Definitely.
Okay. Are there any local developers besides the one that we have here in Galt trying to build the Delta Greens project that have come out and opposed the HCP?
Nothing of the similar nature that I am aware of.
Okay. So I think the developers all across Sacramento County have recognized that this actually enhances their development prospects and it streamlines their development process. And it's a shame that we've allowed the HCP to be pulled in as a political pawn in the Delta Greens fight. But again, thank you for coming tonight. I'm glad that you've answered all the questions that have been posed.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, I had a letter that was presented to me, and I'm going to ask Liz to read it.
Okay, it's to the Honorable Mayor Shelton regarding the Sphere of Influence Amendment, and it's from Mike Guttridge, Aurora Capital LLC. Honorable Mayor, on Wednesday, September 2nd, 2009, we met with Councilman Darrell Clare and Assistant City Manager Jason Behrman to discuss our previous request to Council to amend the current SOI application to include the diocese and our property on Twin Cities Road. Councilman Clare reiterated his statements made at the council meeting on September 1st, 2009, that he does not want to delay the current SOI application. We fully understand the importance to complete the city's current application to LAFCO. Accordingly, we respectfully withdraw our request for an immediate revision to the SOI application to include our property at this time. We support and encourage the city to complete its current application without delay. Respectively, Michael Goodrich.
Thank you. And then I think we have a speaker.
We do have a speaker, Rick Walters. Nope. Okay.
Well, thank you, council members and staff and Rich for coming down here. And I know some of the things that we discussed, we did it when we did the mayor's development meeting, and so it was kind of maybe a repeat for some of us, but there's a lot of people that didn't get that information. So I greatly appreciate it, and it was for information for me, and I thank council members for allowing that to move through. Any other comments?
Yes, I just
Before we move on?
wanted to make a comment to Mr. Rittmeyer?
Rodmacher.
Sorry, I always have a hard time with your last name. I think with any time that there's something new and you don't have all the information there, you tend to be nervous and question it. And so I hope you didn't feel threatened. And it's my belief that the more information you can get, the better off you are. And people are going to look at things from a different perspective. And I appreciate your willingness to give us confidence and the information that we've asked. So thank you for your time.
Okay. We'll move to the next item.
Under Public Works Department, award of bid for the construction of the Lincoln Way parking lot project.
Would you like staff to give a report and then have it continue to the next meeting, or would you like to have the whole report pulled over to the next meeting?
I think the best thing to do is pull it till the next meeting, then read it out.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Agree. Darrell?
I do have.
That's fine.
Okay, we do have two speakers.
You know, actually,
Go ahead.
if it's not too much trouble, I'd like to hear it since I won't be able to attend.
Well, would it help if we changed the time a little bit? Because, I mean, it sounds like you'd like to hear it, but...
Well, I don't think you can change the time because I have to make the presentation at the Emerge.
Liz, will we,
But it would be
will we
nice
have-
to have
will we be
it.
live, would we be recorded on camera that night?
No.
No?
Is there a night that week that we can get it on camera on such short notice?
Possibly on Monday. I mean, I would need to call them, but I know Tuesdays they are not available. Off Tuesdays. Are off Tuesdays.
Okay, I've got a commitment on Monday, but Tuesday I'm open for the meeting, most certainly. Maybe Barbara, you could get
We
together
would have
with
an
staff,
audio.
discuss it with them?
We would have an audio tape. We always tape
okay.
on cassettes. We just wouldn't have a video.
Well, it's not necessary. I just thought it would be nice if I could at least hear the presentation. Since I support both of those, it's really not necessary if it's too much trouble.
Pleasure of council.
I think if you've already made your mind up, I mean, since we're going to be voting on this next Tuesday, I think it makes more sense to actually hear the presentation then.
Okay.
Darrell?
As I say, I'm fine either way. We can hear it tonight or wait till then.
Yeah, I'm more prone, I agree with council. I mean, I'd rather just go through it all at the same time rather than do it and then end up repeating half of it next Tuesday. I don't know what that does for the two speakers. Let's ask them, are you, either one of you, are you okay with waiting until next Tuesday? Because we have two speakers.
Right, we do have to. Mr. Tuttle and Mr. Reese, would you like to comment on it?
We're going to bring
tonight,
it back next Tuesday.
Or come back.
Come on up here. Sorry.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let.
Appreciate it. Sure. I'd like to start off by saying that I really appreciate everything that the City Council has done and working forward into helping our businesses over on Lincoln Way, getting some more parking over there. The gentleman spoke earlier about Gary being the business on the corner that brings in a lot of people, brings in the life down there on Lincoln. Yeah, he does. But on an everyday basis, there are 17 employees / business owners that park down there every day. And as we already know, there are 10 on mine and Gary's side of the street and 7 on the opposite side of the street. Now we have the karate place that brought in more life down there. They're parking. I mean, it's just compiling. So for us to the need of us to need that parking down there and that parking lot is huge. It's huge. Let's not forget that we have the social services department on the corner. Now, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna guess on how many people come into each one of those businesses a day. I've actually spoke with Metro, and I know on an average of anywhere from 80 to 150 people a day go in there and pay their cell phone bill. I have no idea what Gary does. Looks pretty busy down there. On an average for me, I do 30 customers Monday through Thursday. Come Friday and Saturday, I do anywhere from 75 to 100 customers a day. Now, with just me and Gary and Metro, imagine the traffic we're bringing in down there. So the need for parking is huge. I have no idea what that social services brings in every day. No idea, and I don't even want to try and guess. It's great to have the dojo place across the street now. It's bringing more people down there, seeing what's down there. But the importance of that parking lot is huge, not only for my business, but every other business owner on Lincoln Way. But again, I wanted to state that, the importance of it, and I also want to thank you guys for everything that you've done to get to this point. So,
Thanks, Rick. And I just want to say that you're absolutely right, because every time I come down to get a haircut, I got to park away. So I've never once been able to park out in front of your business, but maybe one day we'll get there.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
How long have you been open now?
Be 2 years next month.
Congratulations on reaching 2 years. You've been doing a really good job here in the community.
Yes, you have.
I had one question for you.
Yeah.
The parking with the employees, where are they going to park at when this lot opens up? Because I know you guys are using it right now.
I know everybody on the street calls me the parking enforcer down there, but I try and keep it organized for us. But I've got everybody right now parking in the dirt lot. I mean, that goes up and down the whole block. Right now, today, I counted 9 cars out in that dirt lot, and that was just employees from our side of the street. That's not including anything from across the street, because they don't park in there. But it being utilized, yeah, definitely. Because if you go in there and I kind of went over there and kind of guessed at what, how many parking spots you're going to be able to put in there. Let's just guess anywhere from 20 to 25. That's huge. It is absolutely huge. Gary, how many people use that back alley? It's crazy. It really is. I mean, you go to Gary's during the day, and good luck parking in the back. So that alley being used on an everyday basis, everybody's using that alley. So,
so you think it's a pretty good likelihood that the employees will use the?
I know they will, because and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I know they will because they know that I'll come over and ask them to put their cars in the back so that customers could come in and out. All of our businesses there for Amigos, Market, Metro, myself, and Super Tortas is basically come in, do your business, and leave. There's nothing really there, and other than Gary's, and even going into Gary's, you can sit down and have a great meal for 30, 40 minutes. So the parking limit time is good. But, for just getting in there and getting out and doing what you're doing in there, the businesses are there right now. It's basically come, do your business, and leave. So it's working out pretty well. Everybody, I think, will continue to park in that parking lot.
Right. Again, congratulations on.
Thanks. And like I had mentioned, I'd run into you guys in town and stuff, and if there's anything that Family Barbershop can be involved in to help anything with the community, anything with the kids, please, by all means, come by Family Barbershop and let us know, and we'll get involved. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, I guess Gary will be able to.
Gary Tuttle, do you want to?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, my name is Gary Tuttle. I have a business on Lincoln Way also, but this project started 3 years ago. We weren't even in the area at that time. We were in another shopping center. We've been working on getting parking for the downtown Lincoln Way businesses. Jason's been great about working with the people over there. As Rick was saying, you know, we have Amigos Market, which most of his customers park in the alleyway and block the alley. They park around and back. We have Laheim Center, the older women. They now are parking over in Galt Super parking lot and happen to walk. My employees, the night employees get to park in the back, but I have all of the daytime people park over on B Street by the Smud Park, so that we can keep the parking area back there for customers. Yeah, I'm fortunate that I do have a back access to my business. That helps me a lot. But these other businesses really need this. The Metro, the karate place, getting that driveway cut in so they can use that parking lot there will help them. Getting access onto C Street because of taking that fence out. It's just going to be a boost to the businesses down there. We've lost a lot of businesses there because of the lack of parking, and we would love to see this go forward. So.
Gary, do you do a lot of catering with your business?
Do some, yeah.
'Cause I think with the catering time, you're very time sensitive, and you really need to be able to get in and out of the business. For example, if you're delivering, when you come back to the business, you need a parking space available in order to get in and out quickly, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I see something like this is going to be very beneficial to you to take some of the strain off the parking. So.
Well, we've been asking if we could get that cut open over on B Street too, so that Lincoln Way traffic can pull in there and go in there and park. You know, more and more people are walking across to our business, the other businesses. But, I mean, if you've been down there, that whole back is full of cars. All the way to the parking lot, all of that gets filled up. But if we don't have that done by the muddy season, I don't know how it'll affect the businesses. But
We got a lot of potholes back there.
oh, yeah, just the little rain we had, and it looked like a swimming pool back there, so.
We'll get her done.
All right, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Okay. So we're going to table those two items. Can you just read those two items just real quick so we can table,
Yes.
please?
Mayor?
I'm sorry, Darrell.
That's okay. No, I just wanted to reiterate what both of our speakers just said. I was over at the deli last week and got there probably about 11:45, and that back area already, in fact, I think I pulled into the last real parking space, and I've seen what usually happens after that, other people trying to find a place to put a vehicle. So I agree with the business owners we heard from that. I think as we had discussed when we approved this project, there's going to be a lot of benefit to it, to that downtown area. And so I do hope it moves forward and can make it before the rain.
Okay.
Okay, just to reiterate the two items we are tabling, award of bid for the construction of the Lincoln Way parking lot project, and the second one, award of construction contract for Walker Community Park Phase 1A, which takes us to our next item, award of carbon dioxide chemical bid.
Staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. The recommendation before you now is that council withdraws the contract award to Praxair and authorizes the city manager to execute a contract with Airgas for delivery of carbon dioxide. We're also asking that you appropriate $68,815 from Fund 051338 for a purchase of carbon dioxide for the various water treatment plants. Back in June, council authorized the city manager to execute several chemical bids for various suppliers. We ultimately entered into separate contracts with 3 of the 4 lowest responsive bidders authorized by council at that night. Unfortunately, we were unable to reach an agreement with Praxair for the chemical carbon dioxide. We spent significant effort, both with city staff and with the attorneys from both sides, working to resolve numerous issues relative to the contract, and we resolved quite a few of them. Unfortunately, there were significant issues such as liability and identifications that we're ultimately unable to come to any resolution of. A more this detailed description of these issues is included in the agenda report. The majority of these significantly increase the city's risk relative to our liability. They do not want to receive any responsibility for failure of their product or failure to deliver other than the cost of the product. I bet our attorneys aren't pretty good trying to get them to concede, and we finally got to the point where it just was way more than what was reasonable to ask them or us to agree to the contract. So at that point, we realized that we were not going to come to a contract with Praxair. We went back and contacted the only other bidder, which was Airgas, and asked if they would honor their bid. They said that they would. The costs for Airgas are approximately double the cost for a year. We bid the proposal with it's a 2-year contract with costs for each year. Airgas's contract would be $66,587 for the first year, as opposed to about $31,000 from Praxair. The big difference here is they're willing to sign the contract and be responsible for their product and assume their appropriate liabilities. These numbers are based upon the estimated contract purchase and their unit price. The actual final value of the contract will be dependent upon the final quantity that we actually purchased over the course of the year. There is no advantage to rebid the contract because these are the only 2 local area suppliers of this chemical. If we went out and rebid, we only get the 2 people bidding over again would have the same contract impasse issues with Praxair, and the cost would likely increase. We believe that even though the costs are significantly higher, the risks associated with using the low bidder are significant and make this really the only appropriate move. As such, we're asking that the council authorize the city manager to execute the contract with Airgas. I did mention the costs were significantly higher. The current budget includes an original estimated for chemical costs of about $292,000. That was done before we bid the contracts. Once we bid them, we realized we were a little bit short, about $30,000. When we asked council to approve the contracts, we didn't ask for any additional funding. Since these were estimates, we thought we would go through a portion of the year, see how we were actually doing chemical-wise, and thought maybe we could absorb that additional amount into the yearly budget. Since now we're going into a contract that's more than double the cost, we feel that we're significantly out of what the budget range is, so we're asking for an additional appropriation of $68,815 for the year for this chemical coming out of the water fund. For fiscal year 10-11, we'll include that in future budget preparation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add some comments onto Greg's report. I just want to comment as it relates to how we approach liability and insurance with various contractors. And when we do business with a company such as whether it's Praxair or Airgas, this is their business. It's not a business that we are in. And so what we ask through our contracts is we ask them to stand by their product, to be responsible for the safety and the delivery of their product. They know the risks of their business, and they can best insure for the risks of their business and control the risks. And so that's why in these contracts we attempt to ask them to indemnify the city in the event that they are negligent in the performance of this contract and to provide us with insurance coverage. And sometimes we end up having to negotiate because we understand that when a company comes forward and they're going to make $20,000 or $30,000, that they sometimes cannot absorb millions of dollars worth of risk in order to earn $20,000. And we've always are willing to listen to their concerns and to try to adjust our contracts in order to get the lowest price for the city, but also to provide protection for the city in the event that something unintended occurs. In this particular circumstance, one of the scenarios that we played with Praxair was that if they have a delivery truck that comes into our facility and that driver runs over a city employee, would they provide indemnification for the city? And their answer, and I spoke to their counsel back on the East Coast, their answer was no. And you know, frankly, that is a ridiculous situation. If, you know, if you drove your own private car into the facility, your insurance would stand by any negligence you occurred. Now, we had a little bit of an issue with Airgas. They didn't want unlimited indemnity. And so what we proposed to them is that their indemnity cap at the amount of the insurance that they're providing. So we don't have the full amount of protection that we would really like, but we have $1 million worth of protection in that particular contract. As opposed to if we went with Praxair, we would not have any indemnity coverage, so the question becomes whether or not we can even reach their insurance coverage in the event that there was an accident. So I wanted to give you a little bit of more background as it relates to the type of risk we're looking to control and the discussions that we did undertake with Praxair before reaching a conclusion that we needed to come back and ask the council to re-examine this contract.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a little unclear. Don't we require, when people bid, don't we state right up front that they have to have insurance?
Yes, in these projects, we indicate what the insurance requirement was. They submitted bids with a limitation on the insurance, and with an attempt to negotiate that insurance. It's more and more typical with a vendor that they come back with a lot of conditions as opposed to a contract. We're finding more and more they're refusing to accept either not bid or they're bidding, and their bid is covered with notations as to limitations on liability. And so rather than attempt to just say that you're non-responsive and automatically go to the second low bidder at more than double the cost, we enter into negotiations to see if we can work something out that's we can both live with.
Okay.
Any other comments from council members? If none,
I'll move we accept staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? None, call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Thank you. We will now adjourn to the redevelopment agency. Roll call, please.
Board members Payne? Here. Claire?
Here.
Payne?
Here.
Meredith?
Here.
Shelton?
Here. Public comment?
I have no speaker sheet.
Information consent agenda items. We have 2 items.
And those items are approval of the minutes of the meeting of September 1st, 2009, and approval of the redevelopment agency warrants.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And seconded. Further comments, questions? None. Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Adjourn and reconvene to the Galt City Council. City Clerk's report.
Just a couple of reminders. On September 14th, the Galt City Council Youth Committee will have a special meeting at 6 p.m. in the City Hall Community Room. That will take us to September 15th. That's today. I'm sorry. Those things have already happened. Let's go to September 17th. Should have marked that. The Beautification Committee will meet at 3:30 in the City Council Conference Room. September 19th, as Councilman Clare said, there's a Galt Town Hall meeting with Dan Lundgren at the Galt High School from 10:30 until noon. On September 23rd, the Public Safety Committee bi-monthly meeting will be held at 7 p.m. in the Pachetti Community Room at the Police Department. September 24th, Commission on Aging meeting, 5:15 in the California Room, which takes, October 5th, the Galt City Council Youth Committee meeting, 6 p.m. in the City Hall Community Room, and that takes us to our next council meeting of October 6th.
Except for the special council meeting next
Except for the special council meeting on September 22nd here in the council chambers at 6 p.m. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Comments by staff? Jason?
Just a reminder that we are having a meeting with Senator Cox and some of his staff Thursday at 9:30, I believe. Councilmember Haynes is going to be there. The mayor is unable to attend. I don't know if there's any other council members that were interested in participating. If not, staff is going to be present and talking about various issues that hopefully he can help us address. So we'll give the council report at the next council meeting on how that went, and we'll also relay to him the interest or desire, if he's interested in possibly having a town hall meeting himself here in Galt or office hours or things of that sort. So we'll certainly communicate that to him.
Very good.
Any other staff have any comments? Nope, that's it from staff.
Oh, okay. Comments by Vice Mayor Payne?
I want to say that the Diversity Day was very well attended. I want to thank all the people that participated. We had over 30 clubs and organizations that were there displaying information about their organization or their club. So I want to thank all those people that came out. It was a big effort. Also, the new community event sign is up. It looks terrific. Our Shop Local committee has already posted a couple of events that they have in the works. One is a health fair at McCaffrey on September 26th. And the health fair is the city's part of a dedication of a new track. It just seemed like a good thing to piggyback on track, exercise, good health. So we're taking advantage of something the school had planned, and our businesses will be there. Any business that has anything related to health will set up an information booth. Lodi Memorial Hospital will be there to do a lot of things. They'll be doing blood pressure tests, educating on hand washing, how important that is right now. So I would encourage everybody to come out to McCaffrey on the 26th. I believe it's from 10 to 2, and celebrate the new track. Come and meet some of the businesses. And then the other thing we're planning for October 14th is Cruise into the 50s. And James Gussmiller is organizing some classic cars, and we're going to celebrate the, I guess you'd say, remodeling, renovation of the Stop and Shop Center. We're so proud of it. We want to make a big deal out of it. We plan to make a big deal out of it, which you'll hear more about later. I think that's all my comments.
Councilmember Clare?
A couple of things. I had a couple committee meetings at SACOG, and again, we're continuing to work on especially transportation projects that are related to and funded by the stimulus funding. And as I said, I'll keep you abreast of those as they go forward, but they're continuing to come into our region as far as some funding to get some major projects done in the area. And then we had our climate change and air quality meeting as well. The other one would be the item I have on the agenda for this evening, and I had mentioned at the last meeting that I was going to meet with various people in the community and try and bring some things forward to help us with some of the issues we've been facing. And I want to start by thanking Mr. Guttridge in the letter we read this evening. Jason and I met with them, as I had mentioned I would do, explained to them my position and concerns, and asked them if they would consider withdrawing their request at this time so that we could finish what we've tried to do now for some while. And they were very agreeable to that, as you heard in the letter they presented, so thank you to them. I've met with some community members and council members on just various things that have to do with better communication and whatnot, and to a person, everyone I've spoken to seems very receptive and have offered some good ideas, and so my thanks to them as well. So the item I have before you, pretty clear, I hope, as to what the intentions are. We did have a comment from the public about why I had put in Delta Green's project since there isn't a project. And, of course, what's interesting to me is I put it in because I figured if I didn't, then I'd hear, well, why didn't you include it, and how does that affect that? And as I've said, I've tried to be as clear as possible. So to that question, it is in there to leave no question, I hope, any further questions, that my intention is that that issue for now, as it says, and any other similar request, this isn't just about that, be put off until we get this general plan sphere of influence done. So I think probably be best to open it up to either any public comment or council staff questions. Go from there.
Comments from staff? Comments from council?
I have a couple.
Okay.
If you want to start with me or...
That's all right.
Okay.
That's fine.
Daryl, I applaud what you're trying to do, and I support it. I do have just a couple of questions. Number 7, you have, in support of this ad hoc committee, all council members agree they will refrain from ex parte contracts with any property owner or developer who has an application pending before the city. My question on that is, what kind of application are you referring to specifically? For example, what comes to mind is something on a much smaller scale. The citizen we had that was trying to get her fence in the backyard.
Sure, yep.
Now, are you referring to something like that to go to the ad hoc committee, or would citizens be free to address any council member on issues like that?
No, my reference was to those that are in effect to our sphere and general plan.
Okay, I thought that's what you meant. It just wasn't clear. And then the only other question I have at this time, the ad hoc committee, you didn't specify any term. How long will it last?
That's actually excellent point. I did not. I would defer really to the city attorney. I assume by default the council can change it any time they choose, or if a council member says they can no longer participate. But I will ask either council or him if it would be best to state a term. Most ad hocs kind of tend to run for a little bit anyway, but whatever his thoughts or your thoughts are.
City attorney?
I would add that if there's not a term specified in the resolution, then the presumption would be that it would be a standing ad hoc committee, in which case any meetings of that committee would be subject to the Brown Act, and the committee would go on until the council made a decision to terminate the committee. Another option would be probably in paragraph 5 to indicate that the ad hoc committee would remain in existence until the SOI application was acted upon by LAFCO. This would make it a limited term ad hoc committee. It would not be subject to the Brown Act, and it would automatically terminate at the time that LAFCO approved that SOI application. So those are the two options available to the council.
I like that. Comments? Council? Don? No. Okay, well, let's see. We had somebody that wanted to see if they wanted
I need to check with Mr. Lofton. Did you want to speak under this item? No, okay. Mr. Walters?
Sure.
Rick Walters, and I live in the city of Galt. Is there anything on there that says that if there's 2 council members that support a particular SOI amendment cannot be on there? In other words, we don't want people on that ad hoc committee that support a particular position.
Well, I can address part of that. No, there isn't a language that says that. We've recommended 2 particular council members to be on that committee, and that is Mayor Shelton and Councilmember Haynes.
I understand, but I'm looking forward in the future. I'm assuming that this is going to, the Delta Greens issue is going to come back later. And so that's what my concern is.
Rick, would you be comfortable as long as you had somebody from both sides of the aisle.
I would think that
You would be
a
comfortable with
member of
that?
both sides, that way it wouldn't be balanced one way or the other.
Okay.
That's what my point is.
That was
Thank
a
you.
good question, Mr. Walters. Sorry
Okay.
there's people in the audience that want to disrespect your question by laughing at you while you make it, but it was a valid question.
It's a valid question, and that's okay. They can laugh all they want. Doesn't bother me a bit.
No, no, it makes sense.
Thank you.
I'd like to make one comment also, if I could. Appreciate it. Yes,
Yes.
no?
I'm not in control. I'm not the mayor.
That's quick, it's 30 seconds.
Are you gonna be respectful, Al? Because I don't want to open the door. Okay. Okay.
Anything like that.
Well, that's all right. I
Al
know.
Baldwin, the thing is are these meetings open to the public?
Is your question, is the meeting of the ad hoc?
Correct.
No, because their purpose is to act as a negotiating body, just as when we meet with our employees' unions to negotiate, those aren't open to the public either. It defeats the ability to negotiate with whomever you're negotiating with.
Okay, well, I can appreciate that. It's going to be a little difficult if one is for and one's against. I don't know. What difference does it make if you're on the council? You're supposed to be doing what's best for Galt, whether you believe one way or the other.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
So what difference does it make if you have two people that say, I would like this or I would like that on council, and then they can't be on the ad hoc committee? It's just another thought, another way of looking at it.
Well, my recommendation isn't that there's a pre-qualifier. Every council member, by taking the oath, is open to all projects that come before us for consideration. So
Correct.
we aren't looking to decide what someone's in favor of or against. We are just putting a subcommittee of the full council. As it states in my resolution, they have no authority independently to take action. They have to get action from the full council.
Well, I understand, as Mr. Walters suggested, you can't have anybody that's for or against. And I just think it's the council is supposed to be whatever's best for Galt, not what they think.
Well, you're right, Al. It is supposed to, but sometimes it doesn't work that way, does it?
The
The reality
not all
is
the
sometimes
time.
people have already made up their minds. I think that Mr. Walters' concerns are valid, but I see some other benefits to having people like myself and Mayor Shelton on there. I think we're both open-minded. Maybe we won't see eye to eye, but I think it's a way to build relationships, and it's kind of build some reasonable consensus, and kind of build off our strengths. So I see some real benefits to that. So.
Well, I'm sure you do. I mean, this is the way the council's been for a long time, and
well, sometimes
an ad hoc committee is
step
I
at a
guess,
time.
needed. It's an item that Darrell, I guess, brought up, and maybe it is
30
needed.
seconds, Al. 30
I'm
seconds.
going. I'm going. I'm ready to go. Bye.
Don, I appreciate your comment, and and sometimes we surprise everyone by me voting against something and you voting for it, or the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, and it
I'm
really is. And it is time that we start moving forward and
I
get
agree.
the Delta Greens issue behind us. And sometimes, if it means we kind of have to step into the lion's den and work together, we'll do it. On a couple of notes here. One is I'm constantly requesting information on the police reports, and
Wait.
usually. Oh, I'm sorry.
We still have the resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was getting onto my comments. I'm sorry.
Come on, you're pulling the mayor there. Come on.
You see,
Pulling the
Al threw off my rhythm.
Remember, he only wanted 30 seconds. It took 3 minutes.
Go ahead.
Okay. In continuance with the resolution,
Go
Darrell.
ahead.
Is there any further comments or questions? If not, I would like to move the resolution and hopefully get support of council.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Mr. Mayor,
There are
before,
some point of order.
before you call the question, I would like to propose an amendment in paragraph 5 of the resolution that would provide that the ad hoc committee would terminate upon action by LAFCO on the pending sphere of influence application. And that would then make that committee a limited term committee. It would not be a standing committee and not subject to the Brown Act.
And you know what? I can't speak for all the council members, but I think in our mind we already had that mindset right there.
And for the record, I will amend my motion to incorporate that.
Okay,
And my second still stands.
still stands. Any comments? Action. Or questions? None? Call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councilmember Haynes.
Okay, thank you. All right, get on to it. I'm always asking for information on the police report. I'm always getting, I'm getting Grid 38, which is my area, and for anybody who hasn't been out on the internet, you can see the city's broken down into grids. You can take a look at your own area and see what the crime rate is and some of the problems that your area is dealing with. And again, I say this in almost every meeting. I encourage everybody to go out there and look. I think it's important that we do that. As Jason's already indicated, I'll be meeting with Senator Cox on Thursday with him and staff. Saturday, Congressman Lundgren will be here for a town hall meeting. I encourage everybody to go. It'll be at the Galt High School, as we've already heard, from 10 to 12. The 27th, the Sunday, this is going to be the Galt Historical Society car show. I was very fortunate that I was able to MC this last year and the year before, and it was fantastic. If you have not been to the car show, I encourage you to go. It is a great day, a great way to spend your day, and you learn a lot about the old cars and the people who have bought them. So I hope there's going to be a lot of people out there. In addition to that, I'd like to bring to our attention to the issue that we have talked about into the past that I haven't brought up in a while, and that has to do with the rent stabilization regarding our mobile home parks. In the past, Councilman Meredith and I have met with the park owners. We've met with some of the residents, met with our staff, and as well as our city attorney. It's a sensitive issue, and I realize that we've looked for some alternative solutions. Unfortunately, we've not been able to come up with something that's reasonable and beneficial to both parties. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask that we agendize. I'm going to put on the agenda for the next meeting, and I'm going to be requesting that a study be done on a rent stabilization and be put on it. And I'd also like to ask that staff bring forth a draft item to be placed on the agenda with council prior to us moving forward with that. And what I'd like to do is, what I'm saying is I'd like to sit with staff and help go over the criteria of what we would be looking for in this study so that when it comes back to council that we have all those issues ironed out and any questions that might come up. So I'm hoping that there'll be some support for that. I think this is important, and I think it is something that needs to be looked at before we move forward with any ideas of either rent stabilization or any other solutions to help resolve this problem. Because we got 4 mobile home parks, about 370 mobile homes. We got a large population, primarily seniors. It's an issue that has been pending for some time, and it needs to be addressed. And this is the first step in doing that. So I'm hoping I'm going to have a little support in working toward this issue in the future. So
Let me just get some clarification. So you want an item brought at the next meeting for the council's consideration,
right,
on the
scope,
on commissioning a study,
right,
to investigate
and review
legalization. Would you be looking for an appropriation at that time to do the study?
Yes, I would ask it to be agendized for direction by
possible action.
council, possible action by council. Okay. And I'd like to work with staff on the parameters of what we will be looking at. Okay. And if possible, if we can do that, either, do you think that's reasonable to be able to do it by the first meeting of October, or would it be the second meeting? Let me get some.
I think we might be able to do it by the first meeting in October. We have an extra week in there than that we normally don't have. So
okay, good.
We've already done some looking into it as far as what other cities have done in their studies and so forth. So we have some things that we can look at and share with you, and then bring something back.
Very good. And so I'll need to get approval from council in order to give direction to staff.
I think unless there's any objection, then staff will just work with Councilmember Haynes to have that item prepared for consideration at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, Don. Councilmember Meredith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I wanted to let the public know that I met with Councilmember Claire a couple weeks ago. I want to thank Councilman Claire for sitting down with me just to have a real casual conversation. It was nice to have that, and hopefully that's something we'll continue in the future. Also, last week I had the opportunity to tour the City Center project that is under construction in the city of Las Vegas. And if you guys haven't heard about this project, they've basically, in the center of Las Vegas, on the Strip, they've constructed 4 high-rise towers that are mostly residential, with a city center in the middle. They'll have grocery stores, retail. They've basically designed this city center to be a totally encapsulated community. You can literally live, work, and do all of your recreational activities inside the same building. And to give you a scope of how big this project is, just something that's close to what I do, there are 2,300 electricians alone working on this project right now. Since the project started, they've had 13 fatalities on the job site. But this is a huge construction project going on in the middle of Las Vegas. And it's neat to see the concepts that big metropolis communities are coming up with to deal with global warming and issues like that. At the last meeting, I mentioned a town hall meeting that Councilmember Haynes and myself will be conducting. The date is going to be October the 21st. We're trying to decide what venue in the community we're going to hold it at. We're going to wait and see what commitments we get from some prospective employers before we decide where exactly we're going to hold it. But the title of the town hall meeting is going to be When the Paycheck Stops. We'll be talking about this much more in the 2 meetings in October. We've got a meeting actually on the 20th of October, which is the day before the town hall meeting. But by then we'll have press releases and everything released, describing who's all going to be in attendance and what the community can gain from this. I had a message on my phone today from SMUD. It sounds like they're interested in participating and telling the community what recourses they have if they lose their job in order to keep the lights and the power on in the house. So it's going to be really beneficial to those in the community that are part of that 79% increase in unemployment in the last year here in the city of Galt. One more comment I wanted to make has to do with public comment that we had tonight. I had a complaint about this 6 months ago, and it goes down to the fact that we're a community that's trying to portray ourselves as a community of character, rightfully so. I think that when we're trying to project that message, it's important that we don't tiptoe the line of provocative comments when making reference to members of the opposite sex. It happened 6 months ago, and I think on a small scale it happened again tonight. I think we really need to be careful about the image that we're presenting to the community. So hopefully our public speakers will keep that in mind in the future. And that's all I've got.
Okay. A couple of comments. I want to remind everyone about the Galt. It's the Youth Master Plan. It's going to be at Cibola Hall, September 17th, and it's 6 to 8:30, and that's open to the public. And to let you know that I will be attending the League of Cities annual conference in San Jose starting tomorrow morning for the remainder of the week. And like Don, I will be a volunteer at the Galt Historical Old Car Show. Actually, what we need to do is reconvene back into closed session. We have one more item to discuss. Thank you very much. Couldn't get to the page.
Wow. Hi.
Daryl, we'll call you right back.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.